Well, 8 hours. That gives us enough
Yeah,
time
does
to
that mean we
probably.
have to go for 8 hours?
Well, we can discuss Stranger Things for about half of that, so we
Sure.
we only
Okay, so
need
there's
another.
four.
Yeah.
And then we've got the show, which usually like there's the show and then the pre and post show that takes around an hour. So there's
Hmm.
five. So we just need to fill 3 more hours.
Then you could do the
Okay.
three with speculative hearsay about what season 2 of Stranger Things will look like.
Ah,
Ooh.
It could be like a choose your own adventure. Okay, if this plot point happens, then what happens? You just branch out. All right. I will hide myself.
um, I did you watch Good Morning Cole, Tom?
no, I told Eileen all about them, and she's
Wasn't
intrigued.
interested.
But we got sucked into the Olympics.
Ah, damn
Um,
Olympics.
I know.
They'll be back in just a couple of years.
Well,
What's
that's
the
for,
big
But Good
deal?
Morning Call won't wait, but it will be. Yeah, no, I want to watch it. It sounds like she would really like it. I should have put it on last night because last night she didn't really want to watch anything. I probably should have just started watching it. I'm like, well, I'm just gonna watch this, and then but I played Hearthstone instead because I was behind on the Karazhan. Karazhan.
Oh, I'm way behind. I'm leveling alts in WoW.
Oh
It's taking up all my time.
yeah, you got to get ready.
Mhm.
Okay. Speaking of ready, are you ready?
I was born ready.
I've heard that. I didn't know that that was true or not.
Absolutely, 100% accurate.
All right. You should buy that shirt from our store, dailytechnewsshow.com/store. All right, here we go. Daily Tech News Show is powered by its audience, not outside organizations. To find out more, head to dailytechnewsshow.com/support. This is the Daily Tech News for Tuesday, August 23rd, 2016. I'm Tom Merritt. Patrick Beja back again to give us the French spin on the tech news.
Wait, so do I have to give a French take on every story we're going to talk
Yes.
about? That's going to be difficult.
You could say sacre bleu or
Right, so say a few words with a French accent for every story.
yes, exactly. That would be great. Or not. It's up to you. No, I say French spin for those who don't realize because FrenchSpin.com is Patrick's website
Absolutely.
where you can find all of his awesome other shows like Pixels and Phileas Club. And well, Le Rendezvous Tech is at FrenchSpin.fr.
Yeah, and also it's in French. But
And it's in French.
you know what? Don't do that just yet because we have a lot of tech news to get through before
Yeah, we're going to
we
talk
can rush
about
to French.
social network IDs being asked for at the border of the United States in a little bit. So stick around for that. Pinterest announced it's acquiring Instapaper, but good news, they're going to leave Instapaper up and running. You'll still be able to use the app. CNN reports the U.S. FBI is investigating online attacks against reporters from the New York Times and other news organizations. So more of these attacks in the news. And Tesla announced today that they'll start delivering 100 kilowatt hour batteries for the Model S and Model X. That'll add 39 to 45 miles of range, cutting 0.3 seconds from the 0 to 60 time and adding $9,500 to the Model S price. Now, here are some more top stories. Bloomberg reports numbers reported by Sensor Tower, SurveyMonkey, and Aptopia show that Pokemon Go has declined from its 45 million daily users in July to around 30 million users daily in August. Data was presented by Axiom Capital Management. They're trying to keep investors from getting upset that no one's using other mobile apps. Facebook and Twitter are going to die because everyone's using Pokemon Go. That's not going to happen. It's because Pokemon Go is still very popular, but it's actually declining in popularity.
So I guess I talked about how Pokemon Go was not gonna last, and I didn't think there was enough there to keep people interested. And I guess yes, it's declining. 45 million to 30 million is definitely a steep decline, but it's still 30 million, and no one could have, with a serious face
Patrick,
said,
this is your chance to gloat, man. Don't go back on it.
I'm not going back. I still think that it's going to drop even further than this, obviously. But it did hold up during the entire summer, which corresponds to more or less to what I thought it would. But there will be an active scene for a long time now. With 30 million, I don't think it's going to become insignificant anytime soon. What will be more interesting is whether or not the second part of my analysis back then, when it launched, is gonna turn out to be true, which I was saying I didn't think that meant anything for AR, and it didn't mean that AR applications were going to become incredibly popular all of a sudden just because of this. But
that seems to be borne out by one of these Axiom Capital Management slides as well. They show that there's a huge spike in augmented reality searches around the time that Pokemon Go launched, and then it kind of just fades right back down to where it was before, as people got used to the idea. I think it's leveling out a little bit above. So there's some increased awareness of it, but yeah, I don't think it is the savior of augmented reality. If anything, it just got people to have I know somewhat inaccurate, but at least a basic understanding of, oh, that's kind of what augmented reality is. I think a third of a decline on Pokemon Go just shows how ridiculous the popularity was at the start. I don't think it's going to die. I think it's going to continue to be used. I think there's plenty of people who are still enthusiastic about it and still playing it. So we will see where that level is for people who really liked this game and weren't just caught up in the hype around it at launch.
We'll have to wait and see. Sony announced that PlayStation Now is coming to Windows machines, launching in Europe soon, and followed by North America. Sony will sell a DualShock 4 controller adapter for $25. PlayStation Now requires Windows 7, a 3.5 gigahertz Intel Core i3 or better CPU, at least 2 gigabytes of RAM, and a 5 megabytes or faster internet connection. For those who aren't aware, PlayStation Now is the video game streaming service from Sony, which basically streams the game to you, and you can play at a distance the game on their servers.
Now, there's going to be some confusion over this because there's also PlayStation Remote, where you can use your DualShock 4 controller on a Mac or PC to remotely play a game from your PlayStation 4, but that's accessing the PlayStation 4. This PlayStation Now is not accessing your PlayStation 4. It's just using your Windows machine to access the PlayStation Now service, kind of like an OnLive situation, if you remember back when that was around.
And interestingly, Microsoft purchased not too long ago a video game streaming service similar to this and to OnLive called Beam. So it seems everyone's getting in on it. It's very interesting that Sony, it doesn't seem like PlayStation Now is the most popular service in the world, but it's working technically, and everyone is sort of looking at this and sort of positioning themselves to continue to make those things evolve as the infrastructure gets less costly, and maybe down the line it might become a viable option when you compare the prices and the convenience to actual game consoles.
Yeah, PlayStation Now has a limited selection. It's mostly PS3 games. That you also have to subscribe to it. You have to pay for it. You also have to pay $25 for an adapter because it seems like it's only going to use the DualShock controller.
Oh, but you can use a wired. You can use a USB cable to.
Fair enough. Okay, you don't have to use a wireless. So you could ditch that $25 if you really wanted. But it's a lot of things that you have to do. So you have to have a DualShock controller or buy a DualShock controller. It's for mostly, I think, still going to appeal to people who have a PlayStation, who just want to play some of those games when they're in the other situation of being on a Windows PC. I don't see this competing with Steam or anything like that. I don't see PC gamers picking this up on a whim because of the hurdles that you'd have to go through, unless they're into those PlayStation games so much. Do you?
No, I don't think so. I mean, this is a down the line, as I was saying, play from Sony. I mean, imagine that in a few years you can maybe play PlayStation 4 games as well once the computing power of the servers, or maybe some PlayStation 4 games, when they can run those reliably and at an okay cost on their server farms. And it's available not just on PCs and consoles, but also on the Apple TV and on your TV itself.
Yeah.
it might become at that point something. But they're walking before they're running. I think that's
it's interesting to watch because you're right. They're crawling. They're before they're walking. PlayStation View, we talked about this on Cord Killers this week, is doing a thing where people are subscribing to it and using it where they never have had any intention of buying a Sony PlayStation. In fact, one of our emailers was saying, why are they calling it PlayStation View? That's confusing to people because they think they have to have a PlayStation. So that PlayStation View television service sort of seems to point the way here of Sony kind of taking an approach like Microsoft is with Office, that we should be providing services and platforms, and it shouldn't matter what device they use. Yeah, our flagship will be our own device, but let's get that money from people no matter where they are.
And the other thing is, at some point, the thing, in order for this to work, you need to have great relationships with the publishers, because they're not going to want to have. That's why OnLive failed ultimately, because they couldn't get a subscription service, which is the only way to make this interesting. Just as it is interesting for Netflix, because you get unlimited access to the entire library. That's how it becomes interesting to be paying a monthly subscription. So Sony is probably going to be the one that can make it work. Maybe Microsoft can do that as well. But someone can make this work, so they're probably thinking it might as well be us.
Sources are telling Bloomberg that Google is lining up a bunch of money to give to VR films, VR programs, in advance of the launch of its Daydream VR service in the coming weeks. Projects include 360-degree video with YouTube stars like iJustine and the Dolan twins, some partnerships with places like Hulu and HBO, video game producers, obviously, sports leagues. They mentioned Major League Baseball and the NBA. Some projects like the Hulu one, for instance, will not be exclusive, but they'll be timed to debut with Daydream. If you remember, Daydream is the VR part of Android that is supported in Android Nougat. Android Nougat just started rolling out Monday, so it would make sense that we would see Daydream within the next few weeks. And Google is providing funds, but not getting ownership. They are just essentially saying, we want to pay for people to make great stuff on this platform so that people will use the platform.
It's definitely interesting. I think a good 90% of all of these videos produced in the first, let's say, 6 months are going to be incredibly awkward. But someone has to go in and try things out to figure out what works and what doesn't. So,
well, and if you're going to try to convince people to try out VR, one of the things you want to do is make it cheap, and that's what Daydream VR is supposed to be. Google will have reference designs, of course, and probably have their own product, but they're really pushing other people making things on the platform. Google's providing a controller to make it easier than, say, a Gear VR, where you have to actually, touch your face to do it, although Gear VR has some controllers rolling out as well. But the key is saying there's something to do there. And I think that's what Google is looking at, is we just want to make sure that people understand, oh, you're going to be able to see cool movies, you're going to be able to play games, and you're going to be able to watch TV shows. There's a reason why you might want to try this. And then if it's compelling, they may be more willing to hand over a couple $100 rather than $800 to $1,000 that they would need for an HTC Vive or an Oculus Rift.
Yeah, that's possible. It only works on Android, though. That's everyone who already has
the dominant operating system in the world, though.
Yeah, no, of course, but you need, as you were saying, there are people who already have VR headsets, and not every phone is in a VR situation. I guess you can use it with a Google Cardboard, but that's not optimal. I mean, yeah, of course, it's a very important move, but it's not like everyone who already has an Oculus or a Vive can use that service. It's going to be for other people.
Yeah, I think it's for people who can't afford an Oculus or a Vive, but we're looking for something a little better than Cardboard and maybe don't want to buy a Samsung product. Some of these Daydream VR products will be standalone. You just buy it and it will have all the electronics built into it. We'll see. We'll see what people come up with.
Yeah, of course. I guess what I was getting at is people who already have them, who might be interested in those potentially cool or interesting videos, are not going to be able to get them.
Yeah, without getting Daydream VR, which is Google's whole point, I guess. We want to make everyone move to Daydream VR because these are so good. We'll see.
Peter Kafka of Record reports that his sources say Amazon is working on a two-tier subscription music service, music streaming service. The first tier has been previously reported and would be a typical unlimited music streaming service for $10 a month. The second tier, however, would be a $4 to $5 a month, but only playable on Amazon Echo devices. Sources say that Amazon wants to launch both services in September, but has yet to finalize deals with the major music labels.
This is really curious because the idea of tying a service to a device seems really bad. But at the same time, one of the things I do right now on the Echo is I'll say, hey, play a song. And all it can do is look into the Amazon Prime music service that comes with Amazon Prime and pull that out. Or if I have stored some music in the Amazon Music Locker, it can pull that out. So being able to say, hey, I know you're on Spotify, but wouldn't you want to have quicker access to this other stuff for $5 a month? Maybe. I don't know. I want to lock myself into a subscription for that.
It's, Spotify did have some less expensive subscriptions, I think, at some point that were limited in the amount you could play, or I can't remember exactly what it was, but I guess the thing is, it's not going to be just the $4 to $5 because if you like music and you want a streaming service, you're probably going to have one with Spotify or even the unlimited one. I guess what I'm trying to say is it would be weird to just have a streaming service for your Echo and then not have one on your phone, right?
Right.
So if you want to have one on your phone, then it's also going to work on the Echo. You might as well get the Amazon $10 one. But
yeah,
I guess let's take it the other way around. It doesn't really cost quote unquote much for Amazon to try this out.
Sure.
So they try it out. If it works out, some people might be interested in just this. They'll have the option. If it doesn't work out, they'll fold it in a few months.
Yeah, maybe they're finding out that there's a lot of Amazon Echo users who don't want to use apps anywhere else. They only use things on the Echo for some reason. I don't know. It's an interesting play, as we say. You may see a lot of folks celebrating something called Internaut Day, spelled INTERNAUT, like astronaut. The idea is that it's the anniversary today of the day in 1991 when new users first could access the World Wide Web. This according to Wikipedia. However, the citation on Wikipedia points to books by someone named Andreas Sofronio, a retired psychotherapist and technology executive who has written more than 100 books. And a lot of people doubt that there's any other evidence that this was the day. When asked whether today was the right day to celebrate the web's invention, the Web Foundation sort of demurred and said, we think the web should be celebrated every day. Which is kind of like, we don't want to rain on your parade, but also we're not pretty much sure it's not the day. Tim Berners-Lee, on the other hand, took to Twitter today and wrote, who on earth made up August 23rd, hashtag get it right?
What's the right? Okay, just give us a day then, Tim.
Well,
don't be snarky. Just be productive. Be part of the solution, not the problem.
Not part of the problem. Well, we did. We had a day back in 1990 when Tim Berners-Lee first published his formal proposal for the web, November 12th, 1990. First web page went live, December 20th, 1990. First web browser successfully surfed the web, accessing the page, December 25th, 1990. You could even go back to March 12th, 1989, when Berners-Lee first wrote his paper proposing the mesh, which would later be renamed the web. August 6th, 1991 is the closest to the 23rd. That's the day Tim Berners-Lee posted a summary of the World Wide Web to alt.hypertext. The theory on the 23rd date is that he posted that summary making the web accessible, and the 23rd was the day everybody showed up and could actually access the web. But there's no evidence that that's actually true. So the 6th would be a closer day. There's also November 3rd, 92, when Berners-Lee posted a page describing the web, which is the oldest page that is still served on the internet. And April 30th, 1993 is when the web protocols were made public domain, ensuring that nobody could copyright it and stop other people from using it.
I think the day we should choose should be the first day that a web page was successfully remotely accessed. So that would be December 25th, 1990, wouldn't it?
Yeah, although there's another holiday that some people celebrate then, which might overshadow it in certain parts of the world.
Possibly.
Maybe,
But that's,
maybe
you
that's
know,
why.
it's Christmas for everyone everywhere
Yay,
on the
it's
web.
Webmas.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
web. Okay,
I actually like
we
December
should-
20th because that's the first page that went live, even though they hadn't put the
It
browser
wasn't
together.
accessed.
Yeah, but you could access it. You couldn't access it with a browser yet. It was the browser came
Yeah,
5 days later.
but Tom, if a page is live but no one accesses it,
You
is
can
it
access
really
it
live?
without a browser though. That was
Okay.
I'm not sure how they did that, but
Okay, when I think we should choose the date. When did you first access an internet page?
it would have been the first web page that I accessed would have been 94. I don't remember the month.
Really?
Yeah.
I accessed the web before you?
Probably, yeah. I was late to the web. I was a newsgroup man. Gopher and newsgroups were good enough for me, thank you very much. I'll go look at your worldwide. It's just a bunch of hypertext. Who cares? I can do that on what was the Microsoft encyclopedia on a CD-ROM. Anyway, yeah, I was very disdainful of the web in the early days. Yeah, but the first time I remember the first site though. I went to IMDb. I want to say like November '94-ish, and looked up something on IMDb at the behest of a friend of mine.
I first surfed the web in '92 at some point. I was at university, and it was actually on Mosaic going to the CERN website, which was basically there weren't many pages back then, and I couldn't believe that was actually happening, that it was displaying images before my eyes that were hosted somewhere else in that hypertext manner. I was so used to actually having to browse folders with images and downloading them one by one. It was magic.
And I was looking at Microsoft Encarta saying, well, this is just much better. It's faster, it's local. You never want things on the internet. It just takes too long. I also hated I also thought cameras would never last inside of smartphones. So,
remember when people thought that you could actually index the web by hand and get people to select? Fun days.
Good days. Good times.
All right. Last topic. Researchers at the University of Bristol and University College London created a robot called Bert to help participants make an omelette. Bert could look happy, sad, or neutral. In one test, it would look happy and pass ingredients without a mistake. In another test, it made mistakes, tried to fix them, but never changed expression. In a third test, it made mistakes, apologized, showed a sad face, and tried to fix the mistakes. 15 of the 21 participants picked the third robot as their favorite. Participants also said they felt rushed by the first one.
How many of us have had workplace experiences like this, where the guy that's always making mistakes and dropping stuff seems to be everybody's favorite because they feel sorry for him, but the person who's perfect at their job is just hated by everybody because they're like, he just makes the rest of us look bad.
Now you know why I always make mistakes and make a sad face afterwards.
And now I know why everyone hates Scott Johnson. No, I don't know. This is really interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's basically because obviously when it's a person that's making mistake, you feel empathy, but clearly for the robot, obviously they also feel empathy. But it's a machine, right? It's tricking you into thinking like that it doesn't have. You shouldn't feel empathy. Although it's interesting, the last thing you noted in the notes, they felt rushed by the first one. So maybe it's not so much about empathy. It's really about how that robot makes you feel when you're interacting with it.
Absolutely. In fact, they asked a few people which robot, and they asked a few people, would you hire the robot if he asked? And a lot of people lied to the third robot. They're like, I wouldn't hire him because he made all those mistakes, but I didn't want to let him down. There's definitely this emotional reaction inside yourself. And that is actually the point of the study is robots are going to make mistakes as they move farther into our world. How do we deal with that so that people don't get angry at the robots? And apparently it's make them have sad faces and apologize.
I recently watched the Bastion short movie that Blizzard Entertainment put out, a former employer of mine, and Bastion is a robot in one of their games, and it has so much expression with just head movement and a light that turns blue or red and the way it blinks. I thought that the Pixar robot
Wall-E?
Yeah, Wall-E was the epitome of robotic expression, and it certainly is. But what is possible to do with just movements is incredible. So I think those researchers should look at Wall-E and the Bastion short and try and express that kind of emotion with just the simplest possible machines, and it would be interesting to see if it works as well.
Robots of the future will be Canadian Wallies. That's how they will survive.
Because they will be so nice?
Because they'll be sorry. And they'll be really nice. Thanks to all those who participate in our subreddit. You can submit stories and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. We've got iSting in there, Strike at Rich One, another Jay Martin, Talk Tick, little spin on TikTok there. Motang is in there, Trillion Lover is in there. You can be in there too. Go and check it out. dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com, and that is a look at our top stories. All right, back in June, I think we mentioned this on the show, the Department of Homeland Security in the United States published a proposal to ask foreigners, so people coming into the United States either on a visa that they pre-applied for or on one of the visa waiver programs that the U.S. has with various countries. They published a proposal to ask those people to voluntarily state, quote, information associated with your online presence. In fact, the question would read, please enter information associated with your online presence, provider, platform, social media identifier. This has caused a lot of people to go up in arms. Now, comments have been taken on the proposal for the past 60 days. They posted it on June 23rd, so Monday was the last day for comments. And the Internet Association got in under the wire. The Internet Association represents a lot of tech companies, Google, Facebook, Twitter. They said this could have a chilling effect on the use of social media networks, online sharing, and ultimately free speech online. They were not alone. The Center for Democracy and Technology filed comments calling it unnecessarily invasive. ACLU, the EFF, and the New America Foundation said the program would invade individual privacy and imperil freedom of expression, leading to a significant expansion of intelligence activity. And Access Now submitted a petition with 2,300 signatures, arguing that the pressure not to leave the optional field blank would make people feel like it was in fact mandatory. Even though it's called optional, they said they feel like they'll risk additional questioning if they don't fill it out, so people will want to fill it out. All right, so a lot of organizations against this. Patrick, as someone who travels to the United States under our visa waiver program from the EU, how do you feel about this? If you were presented with this form and it says, hey, could you just please enter information associated with your online presence, provider, platform, social media identifier?
I'm really of two minds on this. My initial reaction is that it makes me really uncomfortable. It feels like definitely if I didn't, I don't know if how you guys, or not you guys, but how Americans feel when they go to the EU, but going through customs in the US is intimidating, and it should be. It should be something that you take seriously and that you do properly. But being asked for this information, which feels very personal, for some reason makes me very uncomfortable. For all the reasons that are described by all of these organizations trying to go against the proposition. On the other hand, when I think about it a little bit more, it seems like this is they will only have access to the public side of all of this, right?
Yeah, they're not asking for passwords or anything like that. No, just the handle.
So they also ask for your home address. when you enter you enter the country. This is very personal. Could feel invasive if it wasn't so, if we weren't so used to it. The things you post publicly via Twitter, for example, are, again, as the name implies, public. So they're really just asking for that information so that they can check you're not yelling "Death to America" on your Twitter account every other post, which on the face of it I think feels reasonable. But there's still a nagging feeling that it's a little bit too much. I could expand, but I don't know. How do you feel, Tom? How would you? Because if that happens, then people, other countries would probably ask
Sure.
American citizens to do the same.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd probably write Tom Merritt because that's my Twitter account that only auto posts things from my blog.
So you would dodge it. I think, that would be...
Yeah, I mean, and I think a lot of people would dodge it, or people won't think too much about it. Or they might put none. Just like, I don't know, because a lot of people don't have social media presences. It's not going to be that uncommon for someone to just either say, no, I don't have one, not applicable, etc. So what I really think about this is, hey, yeah, sure, it's optional. Okay. A lot of people are going to think that if they don't fill it out, it's going to be a red flag and they're going to get pulled aside for further questioning. And maybe they're right, especially if they are a Sikh, right? And they wear a turban or something. They may be right to feel that way. There may be profiling going on.
Well, so just a second. It's not going to be a red flag. It can't. If you don't put anything, it might be a tiny red flag, but it's definitely going to be, if someone puts it up, then he's going to seem more trustworthy than someone who doesn't.
Absolutely. But in the end, what I want to know is, does this actually do anything to catch bad guys? And the answer is probably not. What this does, I mean, if I really am posting jihadist messages to my Twitter account, am I going to put it down, that Twitter account, on my form? No. I'm not. I'm going to put some other account, or I'm going to put none, or something else. Like, I don't see how this does anything to actually make me safer. So maybe it's not that big a deal, but also why bother adding it then, other than let's collect as much data on everyone as possible?
I think it came out of the San Bernardino attack, right, where the perpetrators
has not been shown to have said anything on any social media in advance of that attack.
Okay, then I thought
there were a lot of people claiming they did, but the FBI says no. We find no evidence that anyone said anything in advance of that attack. So this is just pure fear mongering.
Right. Yeah, and it definitely feels that way. And I'm curious though. You mentioned that it wouldn't bother you, and you wouldn't feel. It seemed at least that what you said was you wouldn't feel any pressure to put the right Twitter account, and if you didn't, you didn't think it would be a big deal. Is that accurate?
I think leaving it blank, especially if you are if you are a Muslim, or if you are dark skinned, if you're the kind of person that is at risk of some kind of racial profiling, then leaving it blank probably is something that you aren't going to feel comfortable doing. But in that case, I'd either put some other account, because chances are they're not going to check, or I would just put none and say, yeah, I don't do any social media.
But what if what if you do though? What if you do have a Twitter account and you post regular things, but you do feel, like it feels uncomfortable giving that social media account? Because I can tell you that I'm not, dark-skinned, even though I was born in Lebanon. Going into the U.S. again, it is a moment of a little bit of uncomfortableness. It is a little bit of pressure. Maybe it's not the same for you guys when you go to Europe or.
No, it's intimidating. It depends on the border guard. I've been intimidated by a border guard going into Canada on the highway to Vancouver, and I've had like the friendliest Canadian border person ever at the airport in Vancouver. I had a really gruff guy in Italy, but he seemed to just want to get us through as quick as possible. And I had a really intimidating guy in the UK once who was grilling me like, bookseller, what does that mean? Because it was back when I worked at a bookstore. So it all depends on who you get.
Right, but you don't feel that that process in and of itself is something that makes you uncomfortable. For
Oh
me,
no, it makes me
maybe I'm wrong,
uncomfortable.
but
It always makes
okay,
me uncomfortable. Yeah, if that's
all right,
all you're getting at, yeah, I could say that it always makes me nervous because
okay.
it's an authority thing.
And so in that context, I think asking for the I mean, we've talked about this a lot, and given the for and against, I think ultimately my judgment of the whole thing is that I wouldn't want to have that field, because it would feel weird if I did put something in, and it would feel weird if I didn't. I wouldn't want to give out that information. It feels somewhat personal for some reason. And if I didn't, I would feel guilty and like I'm doing something bad when it shouldn't be.
And you
So
wouldn't want to put none because that's not true. Is that
yeah,
what
exactly,
yeah,
exactly. Like the one time for my regular life, the one time I want to be as truthful as possible is when I get through customs in a country out of respect for that country and for the procedure. And also out of fear that it could come back and bite me. But you don't want to lie. You definitely don't want to lie. That's
yeah.
something I want to be truthful. So yeah, it wouldn't make me
And here's the thing. I get the arguments that are saying, yeah, but come on, it's always nerve-wracking and it's really not that big a deal. I get that those might have validity. On the other hand, but it does if you've got no reason for this, if this is not actually achieving anything, then why are we doing it?
yeah.
And I'm very unclear that this will in any way contribute to the safety of the country. The same way that, a lot of the TSA procedures have not been shown to have any effect on safety. Some do, but a lot of them don't. And people call it security theater, and I think that's what this is. I think this is security theater, plain and simple. It's not very good theater either. I'd rather see it play.
Yeah, you don't stand up and clap at the end.
No, you definitely don't. All right, let's get to our pick of the day. On yesterday's show, Russell writes, you and Veronica were talking about the technology of self-assembly and discussing some of the tangential effects that this could have on jobs. The book Rise of the Robots by Martin Ford takes a very detailed look at some of the potential effects that automation of this type can have on the economy. This conversation was solidly in the sweet spot of what it addresses, so thought it might be okay to revisit it around this topic. Possible long-term structural effects on employment outlined are a bit scary, but it is always better to know than not to know. The book is very well written and researched and is worth a read or listen on Audible. We've got a link to it in the show notes, or you could just look it up yourself. Rise of the Robots, Technology and the Threat of a Jobless Future by Martin Ford. Send your picks to us, folks. Feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. You can find more picks at dailytechnewsshow.com/picks. And our message of the day comes from Nick in Louisiana. I don't know if everybody is aware, but there's been some pretty serious flooding going on in South Louisiana. He wrote us an email last week, but he never sent it because he got distracted by all of the flooding. And he said, I don't know. I feel self-serving. I'm not directly involved in the flooding, but some friends of mine were evacuated by this group, and I thought the community would appreciate how a couple apps and a bit of self-sacrifice could impact a town in need. Over the past 72 to 96 hours, I'd like to bring your attention to the numerous civilian volunteers taking their own vehicles and boats out. There's some Facebook videos of volunteers. There's a Facebook group called the Cajun Navy, which is organizing a lot of this. He's got some links to local media coverage we'll throw in the show notes as well, and some national coverage. He says the technology aspect to their efforts lies in the use of two apps mainly, Zello and Glimpse. The volunteers are cooperating with the Ascension Parish Sheriff's Office and the Emergency Operations Center. With many K-7 or K-12 schools having their first class days this week, parents and teachers are keeping in touch via the Remind app. Things are slowly getting back to normal, and the recovery and rebuilding efforts are making good progress. It's heartwarming to see a community come together like this. So I love this idea of somebody using Glimpse, which you can use to send a link that lets someone track your progress when they're going out on a boat. Like, okay, I'm a part of the Cajun Navy. I'm going to go out on this boat on patrol, see if I can help some folks. But here is a link to keep track of me in case I get stuck or in trouble. You know where I'm at.
So it's a geolocation app? I'm not familiar with Glimpse.
Yeah, Glimpse is a great app. I use it a lot when I'm like headed to somebody's house and it's time sensitive. So they can know like, oh, okay, how far away is he? Oh, he's about 10 minutes out. That just updates a map and shows people where you are.
Oh, so it's like I know you can share your location on iOS with
With
friends
like
that
Find
also
Friends.
use
Glimpse could
iOS.
just work for anybody. It just sends a link by
Oh,
text
cool.
message. Yeah, it's been around for a
Very
while
nice.
too. And then Zello is like a walkie-talkie for live conversations that you can use on your phone.
Very nice.
Yeah, push to talk on your Android app. So good stuff. Thank you, Nick, for writing in with all that. That's a really good update. I like getting on the ground reports like that. And thank you, Patrick Beja, for joining us as always. What's going on in the French spin world?
I guess the latest thing is the latest episode of Pixels, where we covered the entirety of the important things that happened at Gamescom, which is the biggest video game show in the world. It was in Germany last week. We did that with Scott Johnson, and we also covered at length basically our impressions of No Man's Sky, a highly anticipated game on PC and PlayStation 4. So if you're interested in that, go to FrenchSpin.com and download the latest episode of Pixels.
Thank you to everybody who supports this show. You make it possible for us to do this every day. If you're willing to support the show and you're not already, head to dailytechnewsshow.com/support. If you'd like just the headlines of the day in less than 10 minutes, get up to date, dailytechheadlines.com. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. You can catch the show live Monday through Friday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern at alphageekradio.com and diamondclub.tv. And of course, our website is dailytechnewsshow.com. Back tomorrow with Scott Johnson, the aforementioned Scott Johnson. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Good show.
Excellent.
What should
Lots
we
of fun.
call it? Bob.
Sure, that works. I just downloaded Glimpse.
It's pretty cool. I mean, you can do on the iOS now, you can do that thing where you send a location update as well.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Yeah. No, you're right. But
Good
Glimpse,
show.
Glimpse has been around for like 5 years.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good. I've decided not to turn off the mic, but just to turn it off the mic on the headset. See if that does
and
anything instead of.
instead
I
of the
don't know.
software.
You know what? It could be everything or nothing. It's just a piece of garbage. But it lets the show chug along. All right. So titles.
Yes.
We have Instapapers, please.
Papers, please.
You ever play that game?
Papers, please. Yeah.
Yeah.
I play Papers, please.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Let me see.
I like the
Yes.
second one.
Pokemon Go away. Canadian Wall-E's. What was that one?
That was the perfect robot personality.
That's a.
That when we were talking about the robot, were you listening to the show?
Yes.
No, we were talking about the robot emotions.
Yes.
And he was saying Wally and Bastion were great.
Oh
examples
yeah,
of-
I remember that.
Yep.
Did you
And
say-
then I said, so what you want is a Canadian Wally
Oh, I didn't hear that
because
part.
they say sorry.
It's probably why.
Sorry.
You know what? Maybe I'm so used to listening to you, Tom. I kind of.
Yeah, you just tune it out. No,
I just listen to Patrick.
I
It was
hear you.
a.
I think it's true of a lot of people. Be honest.
The French spin. You shall not pass without filing the I-94 form. Robots need to say SOAR E. Social Security Theater. ID, please. Yes, your social
Security
ID.
theater. That doesn't really make sense in the topic, but it is pretty funny.
Social Security Theater. Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense in each word, but then it brings up Social Security, which was not part of the topic.
Don't hurt the guy's feelings. He's robot too. VR. Google gets new VR content. Robo mechanic kit. I can't. I can take it. Robo mechanic.
Sure.
That's a tongue twister. That is a tongue twister. There's no easy way to pronounce that.
Where is that? Oh,
That's about the-
Robo I can. Yeah, I can't take it. Yeah,
See,
yeah.
try it. Just say
Yeah.
Robo mechanic. I can't.
Happy Internet Day.
I like Instapapers, please, personally.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
All right. let's
I
go with that.
like it as well.
well, if you guys like it, it's good enough for me.
Yay!
I've never had an intimidating experience going through customs.
You're
'Cause
not
all I
intimidated
think-
by authority.
I'm not. It's like, what's the worst? You're gonna send me back home? All right. Send me
Well,
back
what-
first.
No,
what if you're
that's
coming
that
in?
is not
I-
the
I
worst.
am intimidated-
Roger.
you
That
know, I
is
should have said-
definitely not the worst.
I should have said this in the show. I am intimidated by U.S. immigrations on my way back, which you would think would be the easier one.
I've never, you know why? Because I've never been intimidated. Because every time I've gotten hassled by customs, it's been a very young female, about 5'4", who talks in a very gruff voice. But it's like, all right, you want to go through my bag? And she asks me a bunch of questions. Like, all right, like, but when I get like a big older guy, he's always really nice to me. It's like the weirdest thing. It's like the smaller, younger person is very aggressive, and the big older guy is like, eh.
I think what we're learning here, Patrick, is that Roger is more intimidating than customs people.
Probably. The only trouble I had was leaving Australia. That was kind of weird because they hit the little alarm on the desk and they all lit up like.
What did you do?
Oh, it's because I forgot that my passport doesn't have my full name on it, and so
Okay.
my ticket only had the first and last name. It's like, hold on. I have a driver's license that includes every bit of my name. It's like, listen, if I'm a danger to your country, I'm already on my way out. Why would it be an issue? I'm not overstaying.
I think it's also their job to make sure you don't mess up the other country that you're going to. Like, I think if they let a terrorist out through customs and don't realize he's a terrorist, then they're not doing their job.
Or if someone had done something and they didn't know about it yet, and they let him out of the country, and then like the time bomb went off, and they're like, wait, and we let the guy get away. Yeah.
I would like to think they actually used that tone.
We got away.
In Australia, they would say, we let the guy get away.
They'll get
Oh,
why.
that's not Australian.
Way is, I mean, if you want to do it very like Queenslandly, I guess it would be why. W-H-Y.
We let the guy get away.
Like, way would be pronounced Y. Like, which Y did he go?
In California, it would be like, whoa, we let the guy get away.
Oh,
Whoa, dude. I
Yeah.
actually had a customs officer once ask me lots of surprising questions when I was working for Blizzard, and he was asking me, "Oh, so you don't do? You're not a journalist?" I was like, "Journalist? What? No, because if you're a journalist and you go to the country, you have to a specific type of visa you have to get."
For which country?
And I didn't understand in the U.S.
Oh. Even from
And
the
I
EU?
didn't understand why he was asking for all of this. And then after maybe 10 minutes, he said, I said, oh, well, I guess I do podcasting from time to time. So maybe, and he was like, he finished the interview. And then he said, oh, okay, yeah, I must have heard you on Twit.
Oh, really?
My God.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, that was really funny. I was smiling in the most awkward way you could ever
can I
imagine.
leave now?
Yeah, exactly. It was like,
So
oh,
did you want an
okay.
autograph or something? Like,
Well, he was super professional about it.
Yeah.
He just mentioned it at the end, like saying, "Oh, well, that's why he was grilling me." My name sounded familiar, but
yeah,
it didn't.
and he's like,
fit with
I know
his-
there's a journalist named Patrick Beja in his mind, right? Because
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so
Oh, that's funny.
it was fun.
I've yet that'd be kind of cool. All I ever get is, oh, you got a new iPod. How is it?
The two,
They literally ask
Really?
me. They literally ask me. It's like, do you like it? It's like, yeah, that's all right. I mean,
I
you
don't.
already-
I almost never have these kinds of conversations. Most of the time, it's very quick. Like, what were you there for? Holiday or vacation? And
When
what did you
you're-
get there? Souvenirs. All right.
When
On
you
your
come
way.
back to the U.S., you mean?
Yeah, when we come back to the U.S.
Well,
On the
I
way
suppose
in, it's
they-
what are you here for? Vacation. Okay, come on in.
I wouldn't be surprised if being a white guy has something to do with that.
Well, I'm usually traveling
usually don't
with
get many
a
questions
brown lady, though. So
yeah, but that's not
yeah,
the.
but do they know when
That
you get
she's
in? They
brown?
don't know who you're.
well, we're together. We go through the line together.
I think it's a little different. Like if I come in as a single Asian guy, I owe it. There's only one time I've never been checked coming in. But
Interesting. Okay.
I've been checked each, and I think part of it is like oh he's coming from the Asia Pacific region. He might be smuggling something in his very large. Because I always used a duffel bag for the longest time instead of an actual suitcase. But it's like a single guy. He fits the profile of a guy who smuggles stuff. So I'm going to go through his thing. There's only been once I've never been checked, but all of the time
When I was going to Canada on July 4th, I was staying in Seattle with a friend, and I drove up to Vancouver for the day. I got grilled by the Canadian border guard, who's like, leaving the country on 4th of July. It's not very patriotic. And I was just like, well, I'm going to be back in time for the fireworks. I'm just going, for the day. Oh, yeah? Oh, why do you just want to go for that? Like, she kept, like, I don't know. I just want to see Vancouver. I've never seen it before.
Did you say, like, my other wife and child live there? And I need to say hello. That's the one thing you should never do, though, is ever
make jokes. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, no. I have a friend who was actually going into Israel, and he was, he had a young, attractive customs officer, and they started talking, and it was kind of fun, a little bit playful, and then she was asking, so do you have weapons with you, like standard questions?
And he said, "My smile."
And no, much worse. He said, "Yeah, of course, I have an AK-47 in my suitcase." Ha ha ha.
God.
And that was the dumbest. Obviously, that like he realized midway through that it wasn't the kind of thing you should say to a customs officer.
No.
Even if it was playful and even a little bit flirty. So
no. Yeah.
Probably not.
I think
he spent a lot of time in that customs thing.
I bet he did.
Only thing I ever copped to was a Swiss Army knife, but it's like one of those tiny ones that fit on your keychain with the little Swiss scissors and tweezers. I guess I might be able to take over.
I almost always I don't bring back much. So customs is always the place where I'm always worried, like, did I account for everything? Is there going to be anything weird in here? Like,
I always bring back exotic spices, animal hides.
Of course you do.
What is this? Well, it was an endangered species,
it's a $9,999 traveler's check. Just under the limit, sir.
What is this? What is this round circular thing? Well, it's a bar stool, but it's actually an elephant's leg turned into a bar stool.
Yeah, don't joke.
They actually make those. It's true. It's an actual thing. You can get barter.
Especially because they're going to ask me for my YouTube account now, and then they're going to see this video.
You know what? You should tell them, please have the entire department as well as the entire division watch it, because I need to get my views up.
I need the views. Please subscribe.
Everyone, just subscribe. It's the worst.
No, I have global entry now too. So coming back in the U.S. should be easy.
What is that exactly?
That sounds like a euphemism for something.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of unfortunately named. It's basically you go through an interview, and they stamp you as, they do a background check, and they stamp you as pre-approved, like he's low risk. And so you can,
but isn't that just for TSA, or is that
no?
for
It's for global entry, is for customs.
Okay. So wait, what's the TSA one where you can
customs and immigration? TSA pre is what.
Oh, okay.
And if you are global entry, you get TSA pre automatically.
Got it.
Which doesn't that defeat the purpose of, making sure you're not a terrorist?
No, because they're making sure you're not a terrorist for global entry, and so the TSA is like, well, it's the same process we would do for TSA pre. So if he's approved for global entry, then we'll approve him for TSA pre.
Right. No, sorry, I meant global entry as a whole.
What about it?
Well,
He's just saying if you only have to check once, at some
yeah.
point, can Tom Merritt be radicalized
Oh yeah,
at
I
a
don't know.
foreign
Or,
destination and
well,
come
not
back?
even, I don't know. Isn't the whole point of making sure everyone's okay to check when they actually have them in front of you? I mean, I don't know. It seems like it would
Well, it's
lessen
actually
the.
a more sensible way of doing security, which is
Mm.
we aren't going to be able to tell people right in front of us. What really will predict whether someone is going to do something bad is all of these other factors. And so what we do is we look at people and we consider lots of other factors that we couldn't consider in a single meeting and say, okay, they're well under the risk threshold, so we'll let them pass more easily. And that takes the pressure off and allows us to be more observant for higher risk passengers. It's the
I
way
won't.
Israel does it, I think.
No, but
Well,
they still do pretty heavy questioning, even if you don't. Like going through, or is that the airline? It might just be the airline that
No.
does that.
But
Oh,
yeah, you have there have been studies that have shown that you have a better success rate of preventing bad actors when you look at large factors versus individual screenings.
like if Tom was recently divorced, dispossessed, broke, and angry at everything, they would probably like, well, I don't
Well,
know.
if I got arrested for anything, then I would lose my global entry. I'd have to go back through the process.
Forever?
No, I think I could get it back. I just have to show that, and basically they're saying like, well, that now brings you back up towards the risk factor. So now we need to reassess.
So let's get Tom arrested. Dun, 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 dun.
Please don't.
That would be super fun.
For who?
I don't know.
Well, the
was
audience
being
mostly, I think, because we could live stream it. It could be on YouTube.
The fact that I'm going to be going through these things in like a few days makes me very uncomfortable right now.
Well, you have
Well,
they have global entry on you, or something.
Yeah, but I always go through the regular line anyway with Eileen because she doesn't have global entry.
oh, she doesn't?
No. I keep telling her to get it.
There's a story there. Maybe we shouldn't
It's
talk about
a
it.
very, very short and boring story of she hasn't set the appointment. I think she's got an appointment in October to finally go do it.
Okay. Right after your trip.
Yeah, I know.
Well, there's the next one. I still think they need to come with the teleportation belts.
I hate how like there is also virtually no evidence that the liquids restriction does anything, but
Nope.
every airport on the planet is doing it now because the US put the pressure on it. Because I checked, because we're flying from Japan to Korea, and I was like, okay, well, we're not going to the US. Do they still put these restrictions in place? And it's like, yeah, they do.
Yeah, it's everywhere for sure.
Possibly because it's easier to have and follow one standard than to kind of remember what all the different
Korea
jurisdictions.
is a place where they have some restrictions on media and things you can
They have
do.
restrictions on the internet. You try to visit a blocked website, you'll get a little
Yeah.
page that says you're
But I
trying to
mean,
access it.
like customs wise, you can't bring things in, even in South Korea, that are considered harmful to the government.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. So I mean, it's not the kind of thing you would normally be traveling with anyway. But if you brought in the sayings of Kim Jong Un, I think they would confiscate that.
Maybe that's why. Yeah.
Taiwan used
It's,
to be like that, but I don't think so anymore. Used to be really strict.
Korea even had a registration thing for every web service and site. You had one ID that could be.
Oh right, yeah.
I think they got rid of it a couple of years ago, but it was for 5 years they had it or something like that.
Well, folks, we are published. There is a show up, and you can enjoy it. So
That is
if you're watching the video, you already did. But if not, you can go listen.
Maybe they just showed up.
Yeah, maybe. Go start over again, and we'll see you there at the beginning of this show.